This is Cameron Toth with the Alumni Connections broadcast. We're bringing Romie Zelaya to you. I'm excited to talk about all the fun stuff that she's doing with the New York Public Library, coding, Girls with Code, just a lot going on. Pleasure to know her. We're back in her years at Randolph. Going to get right into her bio. So as an English major, an educator turned techie, 2 weeks after graduating college, Romie changed her career path from English to tech. The reason for the drastic change was a failing laptop. In my last semester, my laptop crashed while I was in the middle of typing up my paper. Getting a new laptop was not an option, so I did research on how to nurse my MacBook back to health. In my findings, I learned how to upgrade the hardware and use the command line. That piqued my interest and began my quest into the world of tech. By the time graduation rolled around, I found a full-stack web development course and enrolled into it, where I spent 10 months learning the fundamentals of web development. Since then, I went on to work for Girls Who Code as a teacher, Morgan Stanley as a training specialist. Now I am currently with the New York Public Library as their Youth Technology Programs Associate. At New York Public Library, I have a lot of fun learning all the tools, tech we use for our youth, supporting our librarians who use them in their branches, and collaborating with the team and librarians on activity content using our tools for the young patrons. So without further ado, I want to introduce everyone to Romie Zelaya. Hey, Romie.
Hi.
Thanks for doing this. Good. So I want to jump right in. I love the story. I want to talk about, a lot of things, your time at Randolph, talking about City College of New York and your experience there, and everything that's happened afterwards. But I want to, update people, give them the full story on what you're doing right now. And then, what's the major takeaway that you'd love people to take away from your story today?
Yeah, so right now, as Cameron said, I work for the New York Public Library as a Youth Technology Programs Associate. There, I am playing with the tech tools all day. So sometimes that's an Arduino, that could be camera, anything that's digital that can be used in coding that's what we do, and we serve the patrons with that. On the side, since I did lose the coding a little bit, since I got a little bit redirected, I'm back at it again. I'm taking a course all over again. One of the free Harvard courses, the CS50, and I'm willing to learn it all over again and build some projects.
So, and what do you want folks to sort of take away from your story today? What would you like people to leave this interview thinking or knowing about your story and what they can do with their own story?
Yes, I want them to understand that it's okay to redirect. It's okay to start over. It's not the end of the world. Sometimes you might have to take a step back to take more than one step forward in order to propel yourself into the goals that you have set for yourself.
Yeah, I love that. And one of the things that, and now it's a big word, everybody is using the word pivot. I'm pivoting, everybody's pivoting. So, being able to pivot in your career. And I love the story with higher education, because there's a lot of people that'll talk about higher education, college. You don't want to be saddled with that. You could go out and do what you need to do without necessarily going to college. You're going to run into debt. But I think one of the challenges, I think there's many challenges, but when you don't have that college degree hanging on the wall, it is more difficult to pivot. It is more difficult to jump in to the next thing because there may not be a high paying position or job opening that you might be applicable for. And just the ability to pivot and somebody to value you based on your education, your wherewithal, it's one of the things that's nice that goes along with that college education. Not to say that folks that don't have a college education can't pivot, but the higher salaries, the more opportunities for university development programs that would accept you and be applicable for, and the ability to study on your own, the things that an education teaches you. It's a pretty cool part of the higher education story. So that being said, tell us, where did you go to junior high, Romie?
IS 162 over here in the Bronx.
That's in memory now.
Yes.
And where were you living at the time?
I was still living here in the Bronx. I live 10 minutes away from where I used to live.
All right, very cool. So you were in the Bronx, going to IS, what was it?
162.
162. We're gonna get that memory firmly. Right, so you're IS 162. You're in the Bronx. How did Randolph come up on your radar? And then walk us through that story. And then first days going into the building, and what did that all look like? What did you love about Randolph? What did you hate about Randolph? Talk about freshman and sophomore year for us.
Okay. So the high school book. I was sifting through the high school books because in middle school and all of my entry school, I wore uniform, and I was not thinking academics first and like top priority for school. My top priority was to go to school with no uniform, and then everything else came after that. So that's how I chose Randolph. And then I know what else? It was uniform, and then I believe it was sports. And at the time, I wanted to be like a medical major. I was into like forensic science and a medical examiner. I don't know why I wanted to be a medical examiner, because I can't even fathom the sight of a dead picture, like a picture of a dead body. Yet it's what I wanted to do. I was very fascinated with learning about the body and the everything that comes along with it. But then what dawned onto me was listening to a story. I think I used to watch Dr. G's Medical Examiner, where she said the person, even though she knew the cause of the person's death, but she still had to do an autopsy, and the person fell in like a manhole, and then they got burned and their body was like red. So I was like, yeah, no, not for me. So that's how I ended up at Randolph. Fortunately, there was a glitch in the system when I got there, and the medical in my class, the medical majors and the engineering majors all got mixed into like one batch. So I accidentally got switched to engineering. All of my friends who wanted to be a part of the medicine program, they fought to switch it. I was like, well, it's something new. I'm no longer interested in medicine anymore. So that's where I started. My interest in the engineering field started. And then my first year of high school at Randolph, it was fun. My whole experience at Randolph was fun. I met great people. I have great friends. I'm still friends with many of them. And I still see everyone else every now and again, which is nice. What I liked was the college readiness programs. I liked the SCI. I liked the CFES, College for Every Student.
Yep.
There was other programs that I did that they came to the school to recruit, but I went to a different location. That one was Union Settlement, and I continued with them till college, where they got me a job at the museum, El Museo del Barrio. So that was my process of getting into Randolph and the beginnings of it. It was great. I enjoyed it. Of course, it had its ups and downs, but I wouldn't trade my high school experience for anything.
That's awesome. So freshman year, you're coming into the building. Obviously, there's a mix up with the medical engineering. It's a happy accident for you. You're like, I'm done with medical anyways. Give me engineering. That's fine. What are your initial impressions of the building, the students there, the teachers? What was your favorite spot in the building? What, give us some stuff to reminisce about, and then you can just continue on. Talk to us. What your first exposure to some of these programs were. I love the fact that you're mentioning some of the other programs beyond SBI, but I'd love to know how you got into SBI, what your first impressions of that program was like, and take us through junior year.
Okay. So everyone knows the Randolph Stairs, which is not actually in the school, but it's outside in the park. There was two ways for me to get to school. I either take the 19 bus to the 100 or 101, and then that's the lazy way, but the longer way, or I will take the 2 train and jet walk, because I was always late. Jet walk from the 2 train at 135th all the way up the stairs and at 140, 135th and St. Nick. I'm forgetting. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
But walk up those infamous walk up those stairs, and still have to walk up more stairs when we got to class. Like, I was so fit. So that was a journey in itself, literally. But it was still not bad, because it's something that I remember, and I can look back on, and when I do drive past the steps, I'm just like, oh yeah, I remember that. It'll be a nice workout. I'll consider that a workout now. Over there was just that time. It was just something I needed to do. Places to hang out. I didn't. I don't remember a specific place. I just remember during lunch, the lunchroom. Me and my friends, we always had these deep conversations, and it was like a debate almost. And it like even the deans would get involved in like the conversation because it was just that profound. I don't remember a lot of the topics. Sometimes it probably will be like political. Sometimes this is where the deans probably will like keep their distance, where we're talking about like relationships, like okay, boy and girl things. Um, maybe how should a boy approach a girl, or that's where we'll just like have fun or joke around. But that's where everybody always met in the lunchroom. Outside of school, I played sports. I was in lacrosse, I was in volleyball, and then I was in a step team with SBI. How I got into SBI, that was I did step in middle school, and the first year of high school, I didn't want to do any activities or step because my mom wanted me to do something a little bit different. But I just really loved it. So the next year I auditioned, and that's how I got into the SBI program because, in order to be a part of these teams, you have to be a part of SBI and the college readiness and the preparedness, which I am so grateful for. I still use some of those professional development skills that I learned up to this day. And that's how I got into there. As for other programs, union settlement, there was a recruitment. I liked what I learned and about the programs and services they offered. And it was just another excuse to not go straight home. It was another excuse to get away from school and go to another location. So even there, I met even more people, and we also did, it was similar to that. There was college trips, there was professional development, there was workshops. We had a lot of people who came in, gave us advice. I remember getting Papa John's pizza all the time. Now I just think it's gross. So that's how I got into those programs, and it really shaped my way of high school and that college application process.
I love hearing these stories because I'm constantly learning. Because I felt like there was a lot of students like yourself that I had a lot of contact with, especially the years 2010, 2011, that sort of thing. And this is the first time I'm really hearing about union settlement. There's all these programs that students could be applying for that could help out with different things. I was on doing an interview with Talani Thomas, and she's class of '94, so she's a different era, different time. But she was mentioning things like getting into Milken Scholars while she was in high school. She talked about some other programs, and I was just blown away by some of the things that the teachers had been recommending for her, and I don't think that's always the case. And I know for myself, I didn't know about some. I couldn't have recommended union settlement because I'm just learning about it now. But it sounds like something that's good. So, what did union settlement do for you? Because I know you're still involved with them now. So, I'd love to hear what they do and how students currently in high school could get involved with union settlement.
So, union settlement, they provided after school service. So I went there for SAT prep. I think that was what I initially went there for.
Okay.
So SAT prep is how I entered into that. And I think I started that my sophomore year. Sophomore year is where I started everything. I entered that sometime into my sophomore year, and we did SAT prep at the unit settlement location down by 96th Street and 3rd. And then they will send us to Goddard and Riverside, where we would do more SAT prep. I did soup kitchen, so on Christmas and Thanksgiving, where everybody's sleeping in, I would get dressed while my mom was cooking and head out to Manhattan to the soup kitchen, and we'll deliver food to the elderly or those who are not able to get their own food. And we'll pack, everything will be packaged, and we'll walk around. For the summers, they had summer programs, so I remember going to Drew University, but it was not for like about a month or 2 to 3 weeks. I don't remember exactly. That's where we stood at the dorm, and instead of having the union settlement adults, like, of course they still had to be there to because they were our chaperones, they had to stay with the college kids so we could get a one-on-one experience without feeling like the pressure of like, oh my God, the adults are here. So they did that, and then there was a lot of like sitting into workshop classes as if you were a student yourself. I remember taking the trip to Princeton. I remember taking the same time I did the Drew University. We had classes at the new school, and I remember the improv class, and oh my goodness, story that I will never forget. I remember my writing was so bad in high school, and we were working on my writing, and one of the mentors was a Princeton University student, so we all know it's Ivy League, and she stuck my paper on the wall and was like, okay, she asked me permission. I was like, yeah, sure, you can use my paper. She goes, this is how you don't write a paper. And I was like, oh my gosh, like how rude. So lesson learned, ask why you want to use me as an example and write better. So I've definitely learned that.
Yeah, you were smart saying, give me the sign off before you know why. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's a lesson I learned. And when we went to, after we did class, we did the English class, and then we did the improv class because it worked on public speaking. And then after the class was over, then we had an internship. So the internship was in the afternoon until like maybe 4 o'clock. My internship was at Rob Rogers Dance Company. And the year after, it was at South Street Seaport Museum, and I was on that little boat. And there we did classes at City College as well. I don't remember going on a college trip then, but it was very fun because we were taking classes at a college. So it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, those are great experiences. Those are really great experiences.
And then
talk to us about getting to junior, senior year in Randolph, and post high school education is ahead. What's going on? How are the programs up? And what's going through your mind in terms of how you're making your choices? Summertime stuff. I know you're talking about internships. So what's going on junior, senior year as you're making your decision in your march towards higher education here?
Junior, senior year was a lot of SAT prep, whether I'm taking free lessons with Kaplan, I believe, or Pearson. I think, no, Mr. Thompson, I think, had connections with one of those. And I remember doing that with SBI and still going to Goddard Riverside and still trying to study as much as I can on my own, because I really wanted to. I knew how important SAT scores were in terms of getting to college. What I still wasn't working on, or what I tried to work on, I remember Mr. Colmenares wanted to give me one-on-one help with writing my paper for college to get in, but I was also like helped my mom a lot with my little sister, so the schedule wouldn't line up after school, or because I had after school activities, so I couldn't get that extra help I needed. I really wished, or I do hope, well, if I was to ever do this again, I would make more time because he was a great resource. Just working on those applications, going through, oh my goodness, like the high school book was big, the college book is bigger. It's not even a book, it's just out there trying to figure out what I want to do. Do I want to go? Do I want to?
And it's huge. And it's hard to know where to start, but U.S. News and World Report is a great place if you're looking for specific schools to go to and find information on that. Yeah, no, I know what you're talking about. It's overwhelming.
Yeah, it's very overwhelming. I used Niche. I actually went on Niche this time to look for an apartment. So I was like, wow, they expanded. I think they're trying to keep the market that they had before. So they have like jobs and scholarships. They have the ranking for schools. That was my go-to place. And just trying to figure out, do I want to go away? How far do I want to go? How much could I pay? How much aid could I get? Do I want to take my mom's advice to stay in the city, go to one of the CUNYs for 2 years, and then transfer to go to a private school? It was a big decision. It's a big decision to make at 17, 18 years old, because it's literally setting up your life for the rest of your life. Like you're carving this path for yourself. In the end, I initially end up getting to go accepted to the College of St. Rose. I had I believe, a grant or a scholarship of about $10,000. So whatever I had covered all my tuition. My tuition was completely paid for, and all I had to find the money for was room and board, which is still a lot, but I had planned to be an RA. But then I had health issues, so I couldn't go to school right away. So I had to defer my admissions, and in the end, I ended up going to City College.
Yeah, I remember some of the details. I remember something about like, yeah, I remember some challenges around that. I don't know if you want to talk about that, but that's one of those things that I feel like a lot of students end up challenged with when we talk about it, like making sure that you have your options. I know that you probably weren't excited about City College, especially after me and Thompson going in and saying like there's like a 6% chance of graduating at City College. But that being said, amazing people have come out of City College, and then there's programs at City College like the Sophie Davis program, which is one of the best medical programs in the world. We just talk in pure numbers in terms of like most people are there not for a 4-year education. They're there for getting credits towards a certification, or their credits for, and who do you want to go to school with? But you knocked it out. You got you graduated from City College, right?
Yes, I did. So the benefit, of course, not being able to go to school the first year was a negative outlook. Like, you can look at it as a negative, but you also have to find a positive.
Yeah.
The positive in that is the first year I wanted to go, I did not qualify for EOP, HEOP, SEEK, CD, any of the above. The second year I went because my mom took off a lot of hours to make sure I get back to my health financially. It put me in the bracket to be qualified for those programs. So I was able to go to City College under the SEEK program just as much as I was able to get accepted elsewhere. But I had knee surgery. I have a titanium knee. So I was afraid to go away, especially knowing that there was snow and everything going on, like in Albany and elsewhere. Like, I really wanted to go to Rensselaer, and that was the initial plan. St. Rose for 2 years, Rensselaer for 3 years, and then graduate. But what I did, I chose the city because it's closer. My mom bought a car at that time just so I can get around, because waiting for cab services, waiting for auntie to pick me up, waiting for somebody to take me here was a little bit too much. And we had a parking lot where we live. So it was just easier, park the car, go. So once I recovered, it's more of like a remission kind of thing. Once I was declared free, I studied for my permit. I got my license and started driving all within a month and a half, 2 months. Applied to City College, did the summer program, and started college within 6 months of my last treatment. So I was determined my health wasn't stopping me. I was determined to go to school. I was determined to make it happen. And that's what I did. And that's why my theme for this call is, it's okay to redirect. It's okay to start over, because I had an initial plan in mind. My life is pretty much this. I have one idea in mind, but life is like, no, that's not what's going to happen. We have something else in store for you. So you're going to do it this way.
I love it. And this whole project that I'm doing with all these interviews is about connecting the alumni. And I couldn't help but, think about Marissa Wilkes, who's on the board for SPI. So I interviewed her a while back, and part of her story is she actually went to Rensselaer and she didn't love it. Like, she ended up transferring for a couple of different reasons. So, you just, I mean, it sounds like it worked out better financially for you. It worked out in some different ways. I'm sure that some of the issues that came up, you would have rather that they had not come up.
Yeah.
But taking the opportunity. I mean, right now everybody's dealing with this pandemic. Everybody's trapped at home in a lot of different ways. There's the way of looking at it like, oh my goodness, I'm home. The world is sucks. And the other way is like, oh wow, I have this opportunity to be at home and take this free online course from Harvard. Like, I know that you're taking advantage of that as well. So I really appreciate your outlook on life, and I think a lot of people can benefit from that. So keep us going. So talk to us about the decision to commit to City College and what that experience was like.
Yeah, so the second time around of applying to colleges, I only applied to CUNYs, and I got accepted to LaGuardia in the CS program. And then I got accepted to City College as well. But once again, my health is what came first. I realized that I'm going to have to take the bus or the train. Parking might be difficult based on where LaGuardia was, even though it's like it has my number one major and I'm getting in full ride. So I decided not to go because I remember getting on the bus and, the elderly also needs help getting up, but she sees me as I was 19 at the time, young, but she used me and used my surgery leg to help her get up. But, I let it happen because she also needs assistance. But I realized people are not aware of those who are considered disabled or considered temporarily immobilized or whatever it may be.
I didn't understand that part of the story. So who else was, what else was going on?
So what made me choose my decision to go to City College versus LaGuardia was an incident I had on a bus. The incident it was just me sitting on the bus in the front. That's where people who are considered disabled so sit. At the time, I was considered I had a disability at the time because I was still recovering from surgery. It's New York, people tend to rush past, they'll push you out the way. Because I am technically balancing on 1.5 legs, I call it a half. I'm balancing on one strong leg and one leg that's recovering. People tend to get frustrated, or sometimes the elderly sees a young person, so they think everything is okay with them. Like, it'll be considered an invisible disability because looking at me, I have 10 toes, I have 2 legs, 2 arms, everything.
Imagine some of the looks and the feelings going on with that, and I could imagine it being very disrespectful.
Yeah. So I didn't find it as disrespect. For me, I just see it as they don't know. So I will have to speak up for someone to know. Even up to this day, people are like, "What's wrong with you? Why are you limping?" Or, "Oh, I didn't know." So either way,
disrespectful because when you make assumptions, you make a
yeah. True. I understand that. I'm a very understanding person, so it's
good. It's
to
good.
me, it doesn't bother me.
That's the way everybody should be, right? Because we should understand that people got some different challenges and people are coming from different angles, and there might be a reason that you don't know about. Don't judge, right? All right. So you made the choice.
Yeah.
What was that experience like?
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear it. The phone was a little choppy.
To kind of continue on with the story, what was the experience at City College?
Oh, yeah. So I chose City College essentially because of it was 10 minutes driving from home, and it was easy to get to, and I could drive. City College, oh man, it was a roller coaster for me. Initially, I got accepted into the architecture, but because I applied when I was still in the hospital, so I told them like, hey, I can't do the supplemental application. So could you just put me as Gen Ed or, and then I'll figure it out when I get there. They said, no problem. They put me as Gen Ed. And when I got there, I initially tried to go, it seemed like they still had me in the architect pool because I did have class with, classmates who would have been people who would have been my classmates, in the freshman English course. Eventually it didn't work out. I realized it's not really what I wanted to do. So then I was a little lost. I was like, okay, the growth school wants you to have X amount of requirements. I didn't pass this course. And I was super ambitious. So I didn't listen to my advisor when she told me like, look, you've been out of school for a year. I know you scored at pre-calc level, but take college algebra and then work your way back up because you need to pass calculus to get into the growth school. And I was like, yeah, no, I got this. I applied, I took my pre-calc, failed it. At that point, once you failed a math before you get into the growth school a certain amount of times, you have lost your chance to get in. So now I'm trying to figure it out. What do I do? How do I do it? And what's next? So I remember telling my mom, I'm going to be an art major. And she goes, what? No, you're not. You're not going to be majoring in art. What kind of job could you get with that? And at the time, like, I didn't know. I needed to declare a major. And she says, well, you read a lot, you analyze, you're very analytical. Once you go do English, if math is not it for you, or medicine. And I was like, medicine is just no, out the window. So I declared English as my major and I liked it. my focus as an English major was immigration studies, immigration literature. So I read a lot of books about the Jewish immigrants from Germany, from basically all parts of Europe to America, to New York specifically. Then I read literature on Cuban immigrants, Jamaican immigrants, and even immigrants from south of the United States to like Harlem, like the Great Migration and different things like that. And I liked it. I liked it a lot. It was amazing. It was an amazing class. I had one professor I had like 10 times over because she's the one who led most of those classes, which is great. And I thought I had folks.
What's that professor's name?
That's Professor Javik. Her first name is very hard to pronounce.
Shout out to Professor Javik.
Yeah, so she's amazing, has an amazing personality. She kept me engaged. I don't know about the rest of my classmates, but I was definitely engaged in the class, which is why every time I saw her name on the course listings, I was like, yes, please. So that's what I did. That was my path in terms of declaring my major. Now, in addition to that, so one part of college is academics, but college is not just academics, it's what you do outside of that as well. So I was still with Union Settlement. They got me the internship with the museum where they went along to hire me. But then I ended up getting laid off, which was sad, but that's because I just couldn't commit with my school schedule. Then I was also, same thing with Union Settlement. They asked me to be a mentor, to their incoming freshman class. I did that. And that's when I started getting into the educational sector. And then from there, I tutored a second grader in English. I think I tutored another student, but I don't remember. It's very foggy in my brain. I tutored a second grader in English. Her reading level, I believe, was like at an E. And then when I was done with the program, within 2 to 3 months, she got up to like a level T, I believe. So she made a big jump. In the beginning, she had a short attention span. She didn't want to read. And then at the end, she loved reading. She was very happy to pick up a book, which made me happy.
That's awesome.
And then from there, I think I worked at a summer camp. Oh my goodness, I should have printed out my resume. I forgot everything. I worked at a summer camp. I taught SAT prep, full circle. I taught SAT prep to junior and senior kids with College Spring. I went to a couple schools. I went to Eagle Academy in Brooklyn. I went to another school, some sports school in Manhattan by 42nd Street. I went to a couple different schools to tutor in that SAT prep. And then from there, that's when I got closer to the end of my college career. I don't remember if I did any internships then. I do remember turning down an internship because self-doubt is a real thing. Imposter syndrome. I did my whole application and didn't submit it at the last final minute.
I want you to talk a little bit to that because I think that's something that's important, especially for, I think there's always a challenge. Again, going back to the interview I just did yesterday, it was a great interview. Talani Thomas. We went for an hour and 40 minutes just because I had the time, and she was she had people that were asking questions and following, which was really great. But her story is really fabulous. She went to a historically Black university, and she just had part of her story was like a unwavering confidence, that wasn't, didn't just emanate from nowhere. She had people that were mentors to her and really encouraged her. And I think, part of the historically Black college university kind of experience, she was just empowered, but she was, in her positions, and she was like, I want this experience. I want that experience. I want that experience. And she just sort of spoke to it. But I think so many people, and so many people I come across, I'm in the hospitality industry. So a lot of the people that I'm coming across don't have the higher education chops and don't have the mentors and education behind them that's kind of pushed them to the forefront. And then I have, I meet women all the time. I had a young woman that had come out. She had got her accounting masters. I forget the exact title, like masters in accounting kind of thing, something that sets you up to get like a CPA kind of deal. Anyways, I was counseling her on, hey, you need to ask for what you want, negotiate. And there was a lot of self-doubt there. And she was confident, she had the education, she was able to go out and get it. But I know that she was really thankful that we had that conversation around negotiation, because she wasn't really, her head wasn't there. But having these moments of where you're like, I don't know if I should fill out that application, or I don't know that that's the right thing, because I don't know if they're going to accept me, or they're going to want me, or they're going to love me, or whatever the case may be. Right. I think it's really big. So, talk to that. What do you think that stopped you from doing, and how have you gotten past that? Because I think you got a great position right now. And one of the things that I really admire about your story is you have not stopped. Like, you just gone all over the place. I think a lot of people, in talking about their college experience, they're sort of like, I went to this class, went to that class, I went home for the summer, maybe have an internship this summer. You're all over the place all the time, always into something, with the challenges, with the physical difficulties, but you're always into something. So talk to those things.
Yeah, so the program I wanted to apply for at City College was the Colin Powell program. It was, I don't remember the specific name. The first time I found out about it, it was very close to the deadline, and there's a lot of research that needs to be done for the application itself. So it prepared me for the second time around when I wanted to. The second time around, though, I did everything. I did my research on Malala Yousafzai, which is she was a woman. I can't remember where. Oh my God, my memory's so bad. But she was a if you know who she was a young woman about 18, 19 years old, who spoke up against what was happening in her country, and she was stoned nearly to death, and they had to take her to the UK to be to recover, to get this. I don't remember if she had surgery, but to get the treatment she needed, and to get herself back to great health. And I thought her story was phenomenal, which is why I chose to write about her. The next part was to understand. It was basically about and it was. I finished my application. I remember sitting in the library with my friend. She was studying, also fellow English major, and she kept pushing me. She's like, Romie, just submit it. My advisor, she was like, Romie, this would be great for you. Just do it. I know you're not, it's an unpaid internship. You may have to not be able to pick up your sister from school, but this will benefit you. And I was like, I don't know, because it's the deadline, and they knew I knew about this program from last year because they remember me. Yet I'm submitting it at the deadline, still asking for more time. And I was like, yeah, no, I'm not submitting it. Everything was stapled and put together, and I did everything, and I had it on top of my computer, and I said, nope, put it in my folder, put it back in my bag, and didn't submit it. So I now that it would have been a great experience. I still kind of do suffer from that self-doubt. I still have friends from college who I'm like, Romie, you're so smart. What are you doing? Like, just go for it. Stop being scared. Stop being fearful. It's okay. And I'm still getting through. I posted for those who do still follow me on Instagram. Like in 2014, I wrote a post. It was a journal I had. It was my first book I started journaling, and it says, have confidence. There's no right way to live your life, just your way. And I reposted that because I just need to look at these things every now and again as a reminder. So it's a challenge that you tend to overcome and I think what we need to realize, when you're doubting yourself or when you feel like you have this imposter syndrome, I think that means you should do it. So back then, I should have went to that Colin Powell program. When I had that project that coding project that I thought wasn't good enough, because I'm looking at my peers, comparison, like, hey, they are able to crank something out. This person's making a bash script. This person is doing this AI thing, and I'm just making something basic.
Never compare, absolutely.
Yeah, and it hindered me from my progress and submitting things that I could submit. I went to a conference, and I was like, I don't know if I should still put my old projects on my resume, because that's, once again, my thing is starting over. Sometimes you do have to stick with something. And the girl told me, she said, no, put those projects up there and put the new stuff up there, because your projects don't get old. It shows your history. Yes, code changes every day, technology changes every day, but it's okay to put something you worked on 5 years ago. It's okay to put something you worked on 6 months ago, and it's okay to put the thing that you're about to start working on tomorrow, because it shows your progress, it shows your growth, and it shows what you have done, your history. So that was really great advice for her, and it's kind of what got me back into the mode of getting back into the technical coding and following my dreams.
That's awesome. So you get to the end of your city college career, and you graduate. Congratulations on that, by the way. What are you feeling like, as you're approaching, graduation? What are you thinking about in terms of what you're going to do after graduation?
Yeah, so this is where the story comes in with my laptop crashing. So it was a couple times my laptop crashed, but I didn't really need to do much to get it back up. Maybe delete some files, because I was taking a photography class and I had a lot of pictures. So I was like, okay, I'm just gonna delete a lot of photos that I don't need or upload it to iCloud, so I could like take the load off my hard drive. And then it was in my final year, my computer actually crashed. And as you remember what I said earlier, I was always interested into tech. I remember in high school there was I think they had a AP computer science with Mr. Jacoby, and then they canceled it after like the first month. So I've been trying to get into this field for a long time. And I had to learn. I was like, well, I don't have the money to buy a new MacBook or a computer. I have my iPad, so at least I could type in Google Docs. That's when I started using Google Docs. At least I could type in Google Docs. I could go to school, use the computer, use as much resources as I can. And my mom had a computer, so I'll use her computer to do my work, to get it done. But at the end of the day, I still needed my computer, because I still need to apply to my jobs. I still need to save my documents on my computer or to be organized. So I did research. I said, okay, I went into the command line. I honestly didn't need to. I just needed to change the hard drive. That's all I needed to do. But in that process, I learned about the command line, what to do. Is typing in a PWD going to break my computer, which means just to print the working directory, which shows you everything that's like in the actual folder. Is this going to break my computer? If I open the back of my computer, could I actually successfully change my hard drive? Because it's not simply just swapping out devices. You still gotta format it, and you still gotta, hopefully your things are backed up. You can put it back onto the hard drive, or you gotta open it as a brand new computer. So once I did that, it just brought me back to the fact that I did want to be a technologist from the beginning, even though I was majoring in English. And then once it was closer to graduation, I got an email from this company called APRCHS, and they were willing to take people who were not traditional CS majors. And I was stoked about that, because the city college is becoming more of an engineering school, and they cater to the engineers, and you must be in the growth school to be to attend their job fairs, and to attend just basically to get the benefits. And I also found myself applying for jobs. So when I was applying for, well, obviously, but when I was applying for jobs, I found myself looking more towards a tech job. And I got frustrated because I was not qualified whatsoever for any of those jobs. I couldn't even finesse an English degree into tech. So I was like, okay. And I knew I didn't, even though I was an educator, I knew I didn't want to be a teacher in a classroom, although I did apply for Teach for America. But I just knew deep down it's not what I want to do. I know I like educating. I know I like tech, but I didn't want to be a teacher educating tech full time. So after finding the APRCHS, I did research. And then I remember my mom sending me, my mom works in retail, so she'll see people every now and again who will tell her that she'll tell them what I'm interested in. They'll give her recommendations, and she'll jot it down on the receipt and then give it back to me. And she told me about this program. At the time, it was called C4Q. Right now, it's called Pursuit. And that's what I did. And it was supposed to be, it was like, this is supposed to be my path, because just like so many of the things that I applied to, I found out about the last minute. And when I find out about it, is right the same day they extended the deadline. So when I found out about the Pursuit application, I went to the orientation and found out that The deadline actually passed, but they decided to extend it because I guess they didn't meet their quota for applicants. So I immediately went home. By that Friday, I submitted my application, I think a week before the second deadline, and I went through the process. The process was you have to take a logic test. I heard the year before you had to take typing tests. I had to take a 2-day workshop on learning loops and functions, where if you've never coded before, you're like, what is this? And how do I read this? And then you also had to take a test, and you had to pass a test. And then after that, based on your performance, you had to take a bridge class. So because I had no tech experience whatsoever, I had to take that bridge class. And once you pass the bridge class, then you're entered into the program. The bridge class was 2 weeks long. So
that's amazing.
I finally entered into the program, and I took that 10-month course full time, Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. from September to June. And it was fun. I got to go to site visits. I went to Street Easy. I got to speak to engineers. We had people from Harry's come and talk to us, and we had connections. We had a hackathon where my team won in the category of problem solving. I've learned so much in that class, and of course I made friends. My classmates, some of us has went off to be developers. I have friends who work for BlackRock. Some of them work for Etsy, Pinterest, like these big tech companies, and the middle-sized tech companies as well. One of the person who was applying to be an instructor, who taught us for like his training, went on to be went to be an engineer at Google. So it speaks about like how effective this program was. I was actually one of the first people in my program to get a job. I did not want to wait for my program to finish for me to say, because we hadn't worked on projects yet, so I didn't want to wait for my program to finish to apply for jobs. Because I needed a job as soon as I get out. So what I did is in February, the program ended in June. In February, I was like, I don't know, I have not built a project, but I do know how to code. And people were passing around once again, I will be a teacher for Girls Who Code, but I will not be a long-term full-time teacher. It's just a teacher for that program. And I was trying to be strategic. The Girls Who Code program, summer immersion program, is usually at different corporate or tech companies. And I was actually hoping mine was at Kate Spade. And that was the same year she committed suicide, and we were supposed to go visit her as well. So I was like, wow. So in the end, my Girls Who Code program was at Morgan Stanley. And from working at Morgan Stanley, they liked me, and that's where they hired me as an end user associate, just temporarily, short-term contract. And I learned so much between the span of that. In addition to that, I also went to different conferences. The last conference, tech conference I went to was Grace Hopper. It's supposed to be like a woman in tech conference, and it was amazing. It was amazing, and I'm sad that like all these conferences have to go virtual because of the pandemic. But I'm hopeful to see everything go back, because if you've never been to a conference, you don't have to go to a tech conference. But if you are in medicine, if you are in, I think they have like a lot of dental conferences. If you are a teacher, if you are a librarian, there's a conference for almost everything, and it's an amazing experience, a great place to network, and I recommend it. Even if you don't want to look for a job, just go there and just be a listening ear, and then somebody's gonna make you talk. You're gonna have to find somebody to speak to.
No, it's a absolute truth, right? Being in an association for whatever industry you're in and networking. I'm a member of, for my industry, Meeting Professionals International, ALIA, which is International Live Events Association, a member of Event Professionals in Connecticut, a member of another networking organization called Master Networks, because it's how you stay relevant. It's how you stay informed. It's how you stay connected. And Talani, who we interviewed yesterday, is chiming in here. Great strategy. It's all about positioning yourself, putting yourself out there, and network. Thank you, Talani. Yeah, I mean, I love that. And again, it just goes back to what I was saying. You just don't stop. And I love that about your story, that you're in it and you're putting yourself out there. It's amazing. So can you, for folks that want to get, they're in high school and they want to get involved with Girls Who Code, what's the best way that you would recommend for them to get involved?
So Girls Who Code, there's many different little programs within the company. So I'm going to start with the one I did. I wasn't a student, but of course I was a teacher for the summer immersion program. If you have a young girl, or if you are a young girl yourself in your junior or senior year who have not taken an AP computer science class, to apply for Girls Who Code. There's about 25 locations in New York City that they do for the summer. They have went virtual. I think it's too late to apply this year, but keep it in your mind for next year. So I had to ask my students, how did you apply? Because I didn't know the student application process. I thought their parents signed them up. When I met their parents, they were like, I don't know about tell me about what this is. When I had a chance to meet them, like, these are how ambitious these young women were. And it was just inspiring to me, knowing that even though I was not that far in age, but I was still much older than them. It was just inspiring. And so the requirement is you have to be like junior, senior. I think the youngest girl I had was about 15 years old. One of them just turned 18. And not have taken a computer science course. I believe they said they had to write an essay. But basically, you go to the Girls Who Code website, you look for the Summer Immersion Program tab, you go to it, and you follow the instructions there. I think at some point you might need parent permission, because we do take you outside of the site, and we do take you on field trips to other tech companies or other technology events. We took them, and that's designed by the site who hosts it, so Morgan Stanley Design. Not to go to their tech fusion center down by Wall Street. They had like a tech thing at the MoMA, so we took them there. There was, I believe, one more thing that we took them to, but I can't remember that one. And to tell you a little bit more about the process of summer immersion, it's a 7 to 8 week program. The first week you're learning Scratch. The second week you're learning Python. The third week you're learning HTML, CSS. The fourth week you're learning JavaScript. I thought that the girls did not like me. If you know coding, then you'll know how difficult that. Once you go from Python, Scratch, HTML, CSS to JavaScript, you're like, what? Because that's when it goes to like bigger code. And
what are some of the applications that some of this stuff has? So if somebody's like, oh, I don't even know what all that stuff is. What is that? What is that applicable to? So if you're doing some of those coding pieces, what are you building with these young ladies?
Okay, so Scratch, I use that now in my working as a librarian. This is like one of the most popular things because it's very easy. It's a block-based programming language. So think about like jigsaw puzzles. You have a jigsaw puzzle, and you have like on a menu bar, it tells you it's either motion, it's sound, it's some sort of action to do, and you will click and you will drag, and you have like it's like broken up into 3 different locations on the screen, and you have a sprite which is like a cartoon character who will follow the commands that you did. So if you say drag a loop block, and you drag a loop block, it's going to be like open, and from the loop block I want you to move 10 degrees to the right. You put that block into the loop block, and the sprite will move 10 degrees to the right. I can send you a couple of the projects I did on Sprite. I don't have a lot because I just play around with it to make sure I know what I'm doing or to make sure I know what I'm explaining when I'm explaining it to the kids.
I think it's so really cool because my 9-year-old, he's, they're doing projects in the school. Coding is something that I think they're like spending at least a little bit of time on each year. And they introduced him to a program on the computer where he was making characters dance. So he could actually, and I don't know which, I wish I knew more about it, but it's ahead of where I've ever been with this sort of stuff. But he was making the characters dance and move, and there's music, and he's making it move in time with, and he created little music videos. He was super excited about it. So I know there's lots of different things. I've seen my other kids do video games where they created video games, I know there's lots of different applications to it. And I know on the business side, being able to code and being able to put together applications and using AI pieces and components where, you have a situation of, if this, then that kind of piece to it, right? I think that's
Mm-hmm.
all in the same sort of framework, especially if you're building a business website, and to be able to set up that automatic chat box and those kind of things that, we're all getting more and more comfortable with each day as we go and visit a corporate website. And, there's a chat box that can sort of help us through some basic pieces of the website. All of those aspects, I imagine, are things that you guys are learning in some degree, right?
Yeah. So yeah, that's basically what you're doing. The cartoons, do cool things and stuff. So that's what Scratch is for. Now, the purpose of Scratch being the first week is to get them comfortable with the idea of coding concepts. So you have loops, you have variables, you have functions. That's the purpose of Scratch. Once they get that after the first week, they now have to graduate to Python. Python is a text-based programming language. It's actually one of the biggest programming languages that they use for machine learning. So it's kind of weird that it has to be the second one, but I understand why. It was the text-based programming languages. So now you will see the Boolean will say true or not true. It's literally in words. You'll write the word true or not true. And oh my God, that threw them for a loop. And teaching them, them being confused end up confusing us as teachers. We're like, wait, hold on, what? So, but that was a part of the whole experience because, when you're trying to explain something, somebody confuses you and then you're like, am I right or am I not right?
Well, I think it's great because, going back to your story with how you were getting excited about, this stuff with computer crashing and you got into it, do I take it apart? And now I'm going to the master code, right? The command line sort of thing, because I think, we all have these fabulous, amazing devices that we're using, whether it's a laptop or a phone. And, we use them, we interact with them almost moment for moment, day to day, right? But we don't necessarily understand how to program them or fix them, or even just the basic concept of how they work in a lot of cases. But understanding the binary code, going into that true, not true kind of thing, and just how these computers computate every little thing, because everything goes through a process and things are getting easier every day because of the machine learning and the program that goes behind it, all the things that you can shift and learn and teach. So folks getting down to it and saying, well, I have this amazing device in my hand, and guess what? The information is out there that I could create my own. I gotta imagine for yourself and for everybody that's deep into it, it's super empowering.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's very empowering. And one thing I did get to add is every week we had a woman, or no, every day for the program we had before lunchtime we'll have a picture of a woman in tech who made some sort of big impact. So we don't remember all of them. Sometimes we didn't get to it, but we try to make sure at least 3 times a week we posted it there so they can learn about different women. But yeah, the Python is a text-based programming language, and I remember you said a chatbot. So one of my students, she made a cat bot. So everything was cat puns, and it was so hilarious. The third week was HTML, CSS. That's pure front end. Front end is literally for those who are looking at your computer screen or your phone screen. It's everything that you've seen on your phone screen. The positioning of each box or each chat box or the video, the colors, the text, how things scroll, how things click. If you click, does it make an effect? Think about what you do in a PowerPoint. That's pretty much like HTML, CSS, but with code. So you will code that screen. And when you do that with just pure HTML, CSS, you make a static page. So the static page means, it doesn't mean that it doesn't move. It can move. It could be dynamic, but it's not. It's static because there is no script behind it to do something. So you could create a form with HTML, it says, hey, enter your name here, enter your email address, enter the password, hit submit. When you hit submit, it's static because it doesn't go anywhere. It becomes dynamic when you apply the JavaScript, when you apply the Python, when you apply the other languages, and you hit submit and it goes to do somewhere, to do something. It might get stored into a database. It might fire off another prompt. It might do something. And that is why we taught HTML, CSS before we taught JavaScript. Then JavaScript comes in, and JavaScript is not just text-based. You have numbers. You might have if-else statements. You might have one greater sign 10, or well, the other way around. And then instead of saying and, the word and, you'll have like the ampersand sign twice. Or if you want to say something equal to, but not equal to as in 1 + 1 = 2, if you want to do that, you have to put 2 or 3 equal signs, depending on what you're writing and why you're writing it. It's a lot more code, so to speak.
Yeah, it reminds me when you're explaining it of like doing equations for Excel sheets. That's about as complicated as I've ever gotten. And,
yeah.
Having to put the parentheses around the parentheses around the parentheses so I can make this equation work for my spreadsheet. For those that are initiated, they know, and for those that aren't, thankfully they'll never know. Talk to us about what you're doing now. How, I know you bumped along and you did a couple of different things. You went from Morgan Stanley, which you talked about. I'd love to hear a little bit about that. And then you were at the Knowledge House, right?
Yeah, so that's another coding boot camp.
All right, cool. So talk to us real briefly about that, and then talk to us about how that led up to the position that you have now, because we have. It's been great.
Okay, yeah.
Burned through an hour, so I think I want to get to how people can connect with you and work with you, but I want to finish out the story here. So, what did you do at Morgan Stanley and the Knowledge House, and how did that lead into what you're doing now?
Yeah, so at Morgan Stanley, I was an end user training specialist. So at first I was like, this is HR, but how am I in tech? So the reason why I say that is because for every new admin or banker that enter the bank, I train them on their services. So I'm like, if I'm training, where's the tech? The tech component of that is the engineers build their. So we use the CRM, which is the client relationship management. So I was able to look at different deals that was going on. So I was able to get the insight on like if Apple was doing something or Microsoft. This is what the client relationship management is. A banker meets like Mark Zuckerberg and they have a conversation. That needs to be documented somewhere. But they don't, because it's a financial institution and this has to do with big money, they don't trust third-party apps. So you can't say, I'm going to hire this company to do this for me. They make it in-house. So we had to communicate with their engineers, with the engineers there. Well, we didn't communicate directly, but the engineers would make the project.
Break that down. So instead of like going and getting Salesforce to be the customer resource, customer manager, they're creating their own Salesforce sort of app to handle the customer relationship management.
Yeah, absolutely. So they will create it. The project manager will discuss with the engineers, that's the side I wanted to be on, but it's okay. You got to learn the whole spectrum before you even get there sometimes. The project manager will discuss it with the engineers, and then the project manager will come to us because I was in the quality assurance department. And what we did is they'll say, hey, we added this new feature on the Microsoft Outlook. Simple as that. We added this new calendar feature. I want you to test this out because it's supposed to go directly to the CRM that we created. We will poke every button for if they're making books, like their presentation books. They have Microsoft Office for their CRM. Every new feature that they made, we had to go and test it out as if like we are a banker ourselves. I had no background in finance whatsoever until working at Morgan Stanley, and I learned so much. And I wish I was there longer to learn more, but I knew the limitations of my contract. So we had to click every single button. So let's say you're Zoom had to make a lot of updates this last 2 months. They had a QA department where it's like, okay, who are you? Are you a student using this? Are you a teacher using this? Are you just friends using this? Are you a corporation using this with like 30 people for your meeting? If you are, let's see how this is work. What crashes? What those doesn't crash? Where's the bugs? How did it work for you? Did it lag? Did it not? All of that. We'll do that, and we will report back to the program manager, and the program manager will let the engineers know, and the engineers so it's just like a back and forth process. We also communicated with, so this is where they did use external resources, but this is a company that is made specifically for enterprise companies. And it's okay, I could say it will be like SMP, CapIQ, and a couple other industries that other banks use as well. And I actually wish I had met somebody and they sent me information to the job email, which I couldn't take it out. And it was supposed to be sent to my personal email because it was resources on how to read, nothing proprietary, but just information on how to be a better engineer since I was interested in getting into that field. But because I wasn't allowed to print or email, it's okay. You win some, you lose some.
No, it's really interesting too, and just understanding the difference between being a contractor versus being an employee, and also the understanding of the contractual obligations of being involved with certain organizations. You got all of those real life challenges in there with different agreements, and it's sort of like the more you're young, so you got a lot of ways for you, but learning those lessons too, because it's like, all right, what contracts am I signing? What kind of relationships do I have? Because when you do bring a certain level of expertise and notoriety, whatever you want to call it, with you, you get to start making some of those calls on how people are communicating with you and what information you can retain and what relationships you can have with folks, especially when you're dealing with financial institutions. Your work is so much more than just the punching of buttons. You're creating relationships. There's a reason Morgan Stanley is managing those relationships with clients. They understand how valuable they're worth and why they keep them proprietary, obviously for security reasons, but they're also protecting their business model. So I love that you have that experience and bring that. Let's move on. So how did you go from Morgan Stanley to the Knowledge House?
So once my contract was up with Morgan Stanley, I was once again left in a limbo trying to figure out what I would do. So I was applying to many different places. I had many different interviews. I even drove as far as to Connecticut, Hartford, Connecticut, to interview with Infosys. But in the end, that didn't work out. Not because they didn't want to take me, but just things didn't work out. So because it was technically considered a layoff, I had a few more months left of unemployment, and I was like, okay, I have 6 months to find something, and that's my parameters. The first 3 months I did not, and then I found the Knowledge House actually for my mom, because she was like, oh, I want to code, it looks fun. So we went to the workshop. She's like, I think this is more for you. And I'm like, a school again? I've been in school my whole life. I don't want to do this. So in the end, I did, and I liked it. It was actually a data science camp, and I see why my mom told me it was more geared for me, because my mom would be considered a beginner, and I'm not. And to learn machine learning and TensorFlow and Keras and recommendation system, like, that's intense. When you learn a neural network, neural networks is basically the computer's brain, your brain in the form of a computer, because computers kind of, aside from like binary code, but when they're building an AI, when they're building a robot, when they're building recognition systems or some sort of system
I don't want to get too deep in the weeds with this, but if you watch Star Trek, Commander Data, neural network, right? That along those lines, I'm with you there. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Keep it moving.
So yeah, so I learned so much there. Midway towards my boot camp experience, my boot camp was in the evening. That's when I was attending Grace Hopper's conference. That was also a scholarship I applied for in January, and got the scholarship to go to Grace Hopper in October. Um, it was crunch time. Like October was when my unemployment was ending, and I went to Grace Hopper with the hopes of landing a position. I went there with 4 interviews: Bank of America, Spectrum, Northwestern Mutual, and I can't remember the other one. And I didn't land any of them. It was just nice to be interviewed, but I didn't land any of them. And at the same time, I was like, you can't put your eggs in one basket. You can't, as much as you are super ambitious and you want to get a tech job, you still gotta. Well, my boyfriend told me that, but you can't just rely on one thing. But so what I did is, even though I knew I was going to Grace Hopper with 4 interviews lined up and with the hopes of landing more, because you still can get more while you're there, I applied for the library. And once again, I think it was meant for me to be there, because the amount of effort I put into that library position to get it is what got me there. So I put my application. I hate writing cover letters. I wrote that cover letter. I don't like reaching out to people on LinkedIn, but I reached out to somebody and who passed my application on to my manager. I don't like bothering anybody when the application process is taking too long, but I applied in October and it didn't get hired until December. And, I had multiple interviews. I think I had 3 interviews. I had an interview with my manager. I had an interview with his boss, and then I had another interview with someone else. And then my manager went on annual leave for like 2 weeks. And then he had a lot of training when he came back, because obviously he's a manager. And then I finally got hired. And what I learned when I got there was, I saw why it took so long, because it's literally me, my coworker, and my manager. We are only 3 people on the youth tech team, because it was a team created by my manager. So that was my process between Morgan Stanley and working at the New York Public Library. Right now, as I explained earlier, I work with youth tech. I am technically, so it's a combination of my experience with Morgan Stanley as a trainer. So I don't work directly with kids. I am the one who we are the ones who train and prepare the librarians to provide these resources for the kids at their branches. So I'm more of a support role than a technical role, than an educational role. Yet I still have to learn every single thing, because how are you going to teach something? How are you going to provide assistance for something if you don't know it? So if we're teaching them something about Scratch, I got to learn Scratch. If we're doing something about digital cameras, we got to learn that. If we're doing something with circuits, we have paper circuits, we have flowable circuits. I got to do circuits, and the list goes on for everything that we do. And right now it's a challenge because of everything is remote right now. So I'm in the process of just coming up with different ideas. I can't speak too much about that because it hasn't been released in public, but just trying to come up with things that people could do while they're home.
Well, I can see this being a great opportunity. I mean, tech is all over the place, and it's what's actually allowing us. I mean, we have been through a pandemic before, but the last time we didn't have internet and Wi-Fi. So you got to be thankful for some things. I'm really appreciative of the work that you're doing. I'm sure the New York Public Library is really benefiting from it, and I can't wait to see what you guys are able to roll out and do to benefit folks. I love the fact that you're providing a lot of the information for librarians. I mean, one of the things that we sort of were talking about in terms of teachers being able to provide resources, they got to know. You don't know what you don't know. So having a central resource for the New York Public Library to sort of disseminate that information, creating lists, creating easy to think, find things for these librarians today. As a girl that's walking in, that's looking to code, or a young boy that's looking into to code, to be able to offer them the resources as they're walking through the door, or somebody that's struggling to pivot right now, who had a career, or job, and it's sort of disappeared, and they're like, what, I want to get into something else, and allowing them to pivot. And I think that's the value of our libraries. I value the library so much, not only for the access to books for my children, which, if I went out and bought all the books that we've read over the years, there's no way I would be able to afford it, first of all, but also all the additional resources that the library brings to bear. I mean, we've been to the Intrepid Museum because of our library membership for free, because that was something that was offered by the library. There's the ebooks that my kids are reading online right now because the libraries are closed because we have to social distance. So it's such an important piece. I'm so glad that you're a part of it. You have such a great story. I want to let you have the final word. So I'll let people, please let people know how they can get in touch with you. If there's anything that you're currently looking for in terms of assistance and how you might be able to help folks. And again, just what you wanted people to get out of this talk to begin with. And I'll let you say goodbye to everybody once you're done with that.
Okay. So you can contact me via my email. It's my last name, first name. It should be on the screen over here somewhere. Trying to be a YouTuber yet. Right there is ZelayaRomie@gmail.com. And then you can also find me on LinkedIn. And the LinkedIn link is, of course, linkedin.com/in/Romie-Zelaya. And then that you can see a little bit more of what I'm doing there. Once again, my advice to everyone is it's okay to start over. It's okay to redirect. Life bounce you in many different directions. You'll get frustrated, but don't stay down. And if you want to know how to get started in tech, it doesn't matter how much you know, how little you know. It's fine. There's so many websites. I know so many resources, and I'm still learning many more resources that can do it for you, that can help you. If you do have some, I'll say if the Harvard course is still free, sign up for the Harvard CS50. Go to edX. There's many websites out there. You can find me via my email or LinkedIn, and you can ask me.
Beautiful. I'm going to drop your email into the comments if that's okay. I won't put it in the simple way where somebody could just click at it. I'll put Zelaya Romie with at spelled out at gmail.com. So if that's okay, I'll drop that way just so hopefully you don't get spammed.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. And then I'll also drop the link for your LinkedIn. All right. Thank you so much for doing this with me, Romie. We want to encourage other alumni to get in here and connect with Romie and for you to connect with other alumni that are doing interviews. I think there's definitely folks that I can recommend that you can contact that will help you with connecting with folks and doing some amazing things. And I'm excited for the connections that you guys are making. So I'll let you sign off and say goodbye to everybody. And then just hold on. I'll talk to you afterwards.
Okay. Bye.